Hoi, hoi. Welcome. Yeah. Whoa. Hoi. No, kipper. You fancy a kipper? I'll just have one more kipper. Hello, everybody. My name's Chris Quinlan. Melbourne. Get my lips together. Melbourne Musos. Facechook live on a windy Melbourne. What I'm going to do tonight, I'm going to be especially harmonic tonight. And what I'm going to do tonight is talk about a little bit of music theory, but making it musical. Doing a few things on, of all things, the drum kit. Doris, the big-ass drum kit. There we go. Oh, triggers. Oh, sounds a bit atonal. But what I would like to do with you all is talk about a wonderful person who's he's the musical theorist to the stars. And... okay. Oh, that went well. Oh, well. And what happens is the name of the man is Nicolas Slonimsky. Okay. There he is there. For those of you who don't know, I will put the inset up later and all that biz. What I'm going to do right now is sort of talk about, first of all, a thing that is one of the most important keystones in music, and that is the cycle of fifths. And it sometimes surprises me, people who scratch their head about it. And it's a way that all the keys in music come together. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit, and then I'm going to use the triggers to sort of demonstrate it a little bit, do a couple of different sounds with the triggers. But generally talk about that, and then I'm going to talk about our Nicholas. There you go. Now what it is the cycle of fifths. Okay, so what happens is when you're dealing with musical theory of any kind, for those of you who do, please put up with me, this is getting started, but for those who don't, here we go. When you're dealing with musical theory, you traditionally start with the note C. And we know that best as middle C on the piano. If you take a piano and cut it in half, the very middle is middle C. You go up that way to the higher notes, that's the treble clef. You go left, bass clef. If you look at Elton John and he's doing that, you know what he's doing. Treble and bass, basically. Okay. Now what happens is that with the cycle of fifths, it's exactly what it is. If you go up 5. So if you've got C major, you go up 5, C, D, E, F, G. Okay, then you've got the G major. And then you go up another 5, G, A, B, C, D. And then you go up another 5 and it keeps on going. Now I'm going to put the inset up here now, and I'm going to leave it up there so you can see it. Now what happens is there's a certain kind of formula. Okay, now you look at it, the easiest way to start is to look at it like a clock. It literally is a clock. Okay. Now when you go down the right-hand side, they are all your sharp keys. When you go the left-hand side, they are all your flat keys. Now there's a little formula, okay? So when you're doing the cycle of fifths, at the very beginning, it's actually quite straightforward. You go up by 5. But what happens is it's up 5 and then sharpen the 7th note, okay? So what happens? Okay, C major has the white notes, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, okay? And then the octave C. So it's a 7-note scale, then the octave. Get it? Got it? Good. And there you go. So what it is you've got that. Then you go up 5, C, D, E, F, G, and then you sharpen the 7th. Now, if G is 1 and also the octave, 8, okay, it's octo. Like an octopus, you see, 8 tentacles. Imagine if one got cut off, a tentacle you'd have to call it a septipus. If it grew 9, you know, because of all the radiation in the ocean, you got a nonopus. I said that as a joke to one of the little poppets. I just got, Mum got it on the couch. What happens if it's 10-10? He goes, a decapus. I know, they're not fun. Well, they're dad jokes, I suppose. Anyway, so what happens is if you've got an octave, which is 8, what happens, you can go one back, okay? So simply put, if you've got G and you go one back in the alphabet, you have F. Sharpen it, F sharp. Put it up on your stave, on your clef, and you have the key of G, okay? And then you do the same thing, up 5, sharp the 7. Then the next one is D. What's one back from D? Okay, C sharp. So you go to C sharp. So now it's F sharp and C sharp. And it just keeps on going. Up 5, sharp 7. Up 5, sharp 7. Look. For those later on, look. It's going. There we are. And what happens? You keep on going right up. So essentially you've got the key of C, no sharps or flats. G is 1 sharp. D is 2 sharps. A is 3. E is 4. Okay, and it keeps on going. B is 5, and then you have F sharp, which is 6. But it could also be G flat. Ooh, terrible. Now, let's talk about the other way. Okay, and when you go the other way, if you go opposite, the little formula is up 4, flat 4. Do you see? So you have C, D, E, F. Okay, now to find the flat in F, okay, F, G, A, B. So you flatten the B. So it's a B flat. You go up 4 again, it's B flat. You've already done the answer. And it's up 4, flat 4, up 4, flat 4, up 4, flat 4. And there you go. And that is the cycle of fifths there. I've left it up because tonight is a little bit more on the theoretical side. It seems to have bobbed up a lot for me personally over the last month or so. And it seems to be like my students on guitar they've all had the cycle of fifths lesson in the last 3 weeks. And then just in general conversation, I'm doing this song. Oh, it's a cycle of fifths. What? Hey Joe, Jimi Hendrix, Okay, C to G, D, A, E. I don't think it sounds like that, but C, D, A, E. Tonic, Chris, there you go. There's another one. Let's do the time warp again. C, G, D, A, E, D, E, 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 E. So Time Warp out of Rocky Horror. That's a cycle of fifth song too. Fly me to the moon. That is cycle of fifth. Bow, bow. Yeah, thank you very much. The Scotch and soda, thanks. Dino Martino. Sorry. Anyway, there you go. And what happens then with the cycle of fifths is that what you do then is with this cycle of fifths, I'm going to change up the sounds a little bit. Because if you go at them in a kind of a way where when you go round the clock, so to speak, what actually happens is you get all 12 notes of the chromatic scale. Now, a couple of weeks ago, for continuity, I was talking about the 12-tone rows and serialism and all that. So if I just did it, not exactly serialist, but what happens is that I've got all 12 notes and I'm going up. See, I'm going round the cycle of fifths there, you see, and that's what goes on. It's wonderful, that tells you. I'm going to actually go to a different patch, actually. I've changed my mind. Pardon my back to you. It is all live. I do everything live now. The lot. Everything. You see me do the basic, and then I'll edit it all. And not many edits, unless I go over the 25 minutes for Channel 31, which I usually do, so there's a bit of a bonus thing. And then I add in all the photos and the backdrop and all of this business, and then you get the whole thing, and then I, edit it for Channel 31, and there it is. You see the whole process. There it is. I hope you like it. Ooh. And what happens is that then I use the triggers to actually put it into practice. Now, as we play, I've got some, African echoes there. Into that. I might do that on Sunday for Continuum. That's the Sunday one where I spruik less and play more. And I usually go a bit slower and a little bit more sparse because some of my colleagues might be speaking over the top, so I use it like a quasi-soundtrack. There you go. Now I'm going to get back into the theory, and then I'm going to talk about Mr. Nicolas Slonimsky. I hope I said that right. And there we go. Now, when you've got the cycle of fifths, if you take the tonic note, like the first note, and then you go down 3 semitones, okay? On a guitar, it's 3 frets. So if you take C and you go back 3, you get the note A. That is your relative minor. Ooh! And then you go round. So as you go around the cycle of fifth, not only are you getting all the keys you need for your songs, you're also getting the relative minor. And the word relative is literally like cousins, aunties, uncles, and all that. It's a relative scale is a scale that shares the notes with another. So what happens is the key of C, the relative minor is A minor. So you've got A minor scale. If you want the relative major scale, it's C. They intersect, you see? And that's what goes on, and it keeps on going like that. Now, what starts to happen is there is your world of music unlocked. Anyone out there who probably thinks, oh, well, it's in the key of D, well, that's that scale. And there's this key. And even if you're going off tonight to do some gigging, are you gigging, mate? Gigging? What happens is that you might have a wonderful singer, and you're going to do Stand By Me. Ooh! Or something like that, which is a turnaround. The original's in A, but a lot of books do it in G, you see. And then you might have a singer, a wonderful singer, but she says, oh no, that's a bit low. Can we do it in C? It's a bit higher. Oh, I've only ever played it, What's going on here? What are the chords? Can you write them out? No, you don't need to do that. Don't even need to do the capo, you see. It's just a turnaround. And there you go. 1, 6, 4, 5. 1, 6 minor, 4, 5. Dominant 7, maybe. And so on, it goes like that. So once you get to know the theory and the musical background of these songs, what starts to happen is the world opens. What goes on is often people, oh, can you teach me a song? And I've said, well, you've learnt many songs, a lot of them, like literally hundreds. You just have to know what the strum pattern is or the rhythm pattern, and then you just need to know the sequence of it, and then you're away. And the cycle of fifths is the key to unlocking it. Now, when you're dealing with a major scale, you've got to remember the formula, okay? Okay, so here we go. Bit of a technical episode tonight. I hope that's okay. But what it is this thing called a tone, which is 2 frets on a guitar, but it's 2 steps on a piano, right? And then what happens, you have a semitone, which is only 1. Now, for the major scale formula, I have it in two halves, right? So it's tone, tone, semitone. Then I say tone apart. I'll get back to that. And then tone, tone, semitone. Okay? So what happens is you've got tone, tone, semitone, tone apart, tone, tone, semitone. Some people just rattle it off like tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. And all the kids get befuddled. There is a tone or semitone, semitone or tone. No. Tone, tone, semitone. That's it. Then that's tone, tone, semitone, tone apart, tone, tone, semitone. That'll give you your major scale key right around the cycle of fifths. And then what happens then is that with that formula, the first tone, tone, semitone, so you've got C, and a tone is D, another tone is E, and then a semitone is F, and so on it goes. Then you've got G, A, B, octave C. And then what happens is you've got the first tone, tone, semitone. That is called a tetrachord. Mind blown. Hello, audience. And then what it goes on, that's a tetrachord. Tetra meaning four. It's four notes. And then you do it again, and that's the second tetrachord. Now we play leapfrog because there's the first tetrachord of C, C, D, E, F. Second tetrachord is G, A, B, C. Then, hello ladies. And then the G, the second tetrachord, it's like leapfrog. The second tetrachord becomes the first tetrachord of G, which is the next step in the cycle of fifths. Oh, that's like a Meccano set for the ears. It really is. It's glorious. I love all this. I get fascinated. When I'm driving down the road and I see four blokes, with tradie crack over the top of their bomber door, hey mate, what's going on here, mate? It's a bloody carb, pull the carb here, mate, let's go. I don't really hang it on them because they're doing it with their motor. Mate, what's that? Whatever, fantastic. But I do it with music. So I'm the same kind of hoon for music, if you know what I'm getting at. And what happens with that is once you get that going, the world opens up. And then it's a series of little sequences and patterns and all sorts of stuff. I mentioned the turnaround before. It's one of the most used chord sequences in music. You can also have a 12-bar blues, which is also one of the most used things in music. You can also have what's known as a 3-chord trick, which is a 1-4-5 pattern, but it just depends on the sequence. And then you can have in jazz a 2-5-1. Even the Beatles use 2-5-1 patterns, sort of thing. There you go. But now I'm going to talk about patterns, and I'm going to talk about one music theorist to the stars in Nicolas Slonimsky. 27th of April, 1894 to, sadly, Christmas Day, December 25th, 1995. And was a Russian-born American musicologist, conductor, pianist, and composer. Best known for his writing and musical reference work, he wrote the Thesaurus of Scales and Melodic Patterns. There you go. Now I'm going to do a little bit of a stop there because back in the day, dear late great Alan Zavod gave me my first real break with the TV show in its infancy. We had already did a session or two before that in the 80s and all that when I was just a little pipsqueak. And when I was still a pipsqueak and I had this idea for a show for dear old community TV, we met up again during a production. And I talked to him about it and he said, oh, it sounds great. I said, would you like to be on? I'd love to. And he really gave me my first break. Like before then, it was just, who are you? What the hell are you doing? What do you think you're doing? And then when people were going, who are you? What do you think? What do you think you're bloody doing? Who have you had on the show? And I said, Alan Zavod. Oh, when do you want us there? And then through Alan, I got Terry Bozzio, Billy Cobham, everybody else that he played with. All I had to do was mention his name. And that's how the biz works sometimes. But I did a thing where I went to his house and we had this incredible afternoon. It was supposed to be just an hour, but it went all afternoon. It was brilliant. We just locked it, with all the stuff. And one of the things that we locked on was Nicolas Slonimsky's book. And what it was Alan was busy demonstrating his concerto that he'd been commissioned for, Concerto Australiana, all this business at the time. And then he did this run. I mentioned Nicolas Slonimsky's name, and he said, "Oh yeah, that's probably because of the book." And I said, "You mean I've heard about it, I've never seen it?" And he just got up, went to his bookcase, pulled it out, and there it was. He opened it up and he explained the whole thing and just went up and down, up and down. It was mind-blowing. And for me, that was absolutely incredible. And I'll put it up now.
Slonimsky's a genius. He does symmetrical lines, and within the symmetry, it doesn't mean a stuff whether the notes belong to the scale or the chord. It's within the symmetry of the movement that makes it sound right.
Mm-hmm.
And it really doesn't have any bearing on the notes of the belonging to the chord. But somehow your ear brings it back. You play this wild stuff and then you kind of resolve back to the notes that do belong to the chord just because it seems to satisfy me.
Mm-hmm. It's funny you should bring up the name Slonimsky because he actually wrote an article about our great Persian Frank Zappa, and it was actually printed in a magazine. Did you actually get to read that?
I'd like to see it.
I'll bring it along. But Frank Zappa used to use a lot of Nicolas. It's Nicolas, isn't it? Nicolas Slonimsky's. He had this. Was it a thesaurus? Is the right word for it? His encyclopedia.
The thesaurus of scales and.
Mm-hmm. But it's one of the unsung books of this time. I think it's like you mention it, other people mention it, but it's not a widely known
Isn't
text.
it? No, it's quite extraordinary, really, though. It's worth looking up. It's I'll follow me this way. I'll get the book. Anybody who wants to buy it should. There it is. Thesaurus of Scales and Melodic Patterns. Would you like it there?
Oh, whack it there.
Thesaurus of Scales and Melodic Patterns by Nicolas Slonimsky.
That's it.
It's quite easy to follow. All he does is divide the octave into equal parts and then uses approach notes to these divisions. Approach notes. In other words, if we've got you divide the octave into half, for example, with a tritone. That divides the octave into half. And then he'll approach the half, the divisions. From below, from above. And then he'll approach it with maybe two notes. So he's got put that over E major. Yeah, I brought it back to the video. That works. Why? I don't know why. It's because of the symmetry of the line. Your ear follows the consistency. Chick Corea got into all that stuff. It's quite fascinating. Now divide the octave into, not only try to divide it into thirds, but then he'll have to divide more than one octave if he's going to divide into fourths. It's got to be, 1, 2, 3, 4. You've got to go 4 octaves. Yeah. And then whatever. Shall I do that? Alright, and below. Let's see a chord. Any chord that doesn't. All of those notes, not all of them surely can relate to F major 7 sharp 11. divide, how many octaves does he need to go for major sevenths? You can't even get there unless he starts down here. Well,
Did you know you're quoting an album?
what's that?
That's off of 200 Motels.
Is it?
Yes, it's one
Well,
of the
there you go.
pieces.
See, Frankie ripped it right up. I had no idea of that.
That's it. That was an absolute revelation, then. Isn't that funny?
Well, there you are. Frank was just dividing up, but getting equal intervals as far as he could go from the keyboard. But you can return back to the octave. This is, for example, this is the ninth. That's it. Look, C. There's a ninth to D. Another ninth to E. F sharp. And back to C. So divide equally and get back to. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 octaves to divide into ninths. Yeah. And then you put a thing in the phrase. Whatever.
Yes, the cameraman's got to be quick. Anyway.
Yeah, but he doesn't do it exactly like that. But that's the principle of it.
Right.
To aim for notes that are dividing the octave evenly or octaves evenly and approaching them, all kinds of approach notes from below and below and below. That's a good.
The reason I did that, because that's the clip from 1997. Okay, 1996. Around about that time, 96, 97. There you go. I think it's 97 actually. And there you go. So I'm going to keep on talking about this incredible book that this much-loved man wrote, and it seems to be taken on by everybody that we hold dear. I'll keep reading, and there it is. Slonimsky was born Nikolai Leonidovich Slonimsky. Chris, I knew I'd screw it up. Slonimsky in St. Petersburg. He was of Jewish origin. His grandfather was Rabbi Chaim Zilug Slonimsky. His parents adopted the Orthodox faith after the birth of his older brother, and Nicholas was baptized in the Russian Orthodox Church. I'll keep moving through a little bit. I'll go straight to his conducting and all that. There we go. So he became director of opera at the Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York, and he invited... another bloke. Vladimir Rossing in 1923. Rossing became director of opera at the Eastman School of Music in Rochester, New York, and he invited Slonimsky to join him. I got it right that time. His mother, Mikhail, remained in Russia and became an author. His nephew, Sergei, became a composer. In Rochester, Slonimsky continued his composition and conducting studies with Albert Coates and Eugene Goossens, who's very famous. I think I got a couple of classical vinyl with Mr. Goossens conducting. Pardon me. And there you go. And essentially, after 2 years, he moved to Boston, and Kusevitsky had become conductor of the Boston Symphony Orchestra, another major guy, and resumed his position as his pianist and now bilingual secretary. During this time, Slonimsky taught music theory at the Boston Conservatory and the Malkin Conservatory, and began to write musical articles for the Boston Evening Transcript, the Christian Science Monitor, and the magazine The Etude. There you go. All right, I'll just jump a little bit more, and there we go. Now, here we go. Throughout his life, Slonimsky wrote extensively for periodicals and newspapers, produced program and liner notes, and contributed to numerous reference works. He described himself as a diacaust, a reviser or interpolator. Geez, get your lips together tonight, Chris. God help me. When his conducting career slowed, he spent more time writing about music. He produced the chronology Music Since 1900, and later, after traveling in Latin America, produced the first thorough coverage in English, Music of Latin America. In 1947, he published The Thesaurus of Scales and Melodic Patterns, which would later become one of his most influential works as a source book for composers and performers. The book influenced many jazz musicians and composers, including Alan Holdsworth, John Coltrane, Frank Zappa and Steve Rachinsky, and remained in print 60 years later, hence the Alan Zavod, showing me it back in the day. Was largely ignored for years after its publication. Quincy Jones said in a February 2018 interview, "Every time I used to see Coltrane, he'd have Nicolas Slonimsky's book." Geez, that's a whole bloody comedy episode, me just trying to pronounce his surname. Sorry, that's a me thing. Anyway, there you go. And then what happened is this. He became a friend of avant-garde composer and rock guitarist Frank Zappa and performed some of his own compositions at a Zappa concert in Santa Monica, California in 1981. I've heard that on a bootleg. There it is. And Frank Zappa was in complete awe. He said, basically, he told the whole audience, shut up and listen. You know, he's one of my heroes. Now, he named his cat Grody to the Max after learning the phrase from Zappa's daughter, Moon Zappa. There you go. Valley Girl. Valley Girl. There it is there. Oh, there it is. And he passed away in Los Angeles in 1995 at the age of 101. There it is. His papers are archived in the Library of Congress. Now, please look him up. Please have a listen. Please have a listen to the people. Oh, where am I going? And what I'm going to do is actually talk about things like what he did. Some of the things that he did was take things like he would have melodic patterns, right? And then what he did, and what Alan Zavod just pulled out the book and started just going like that, he would get jumps happening. So he would do whole things on seconds, and then and so if it was a second, it's a tone, so it would become a whole tone scale. But all these patterns on the whole tone scale. And then if he did a minor third, well, that would be a diminished. It was and it just kept on going like that. You see, the symmetrical kind of thing. But then he would do fourths. Now, I've talked about the cycle of fifths tonight, going around clockwise. But if I went anti-clockwise, I went to the trouble of putting that on my triggers before. I'll take that back to the piano. Oh, so you can hear it clearly. And you're going backwards. So you're going up in fourths. And Alan Zavod just started doing all these, all in fourths. I'm going, that sounds a bit like McCoy Tyner. You see? That's what I'm getting at. I'm playing a lot less tonight. I'm talking a lot more. Sorry about that. But I hope you can go off and have a listen. That's not what I wanted. I didn't press that button. Hey! Can you hear that? I've heard that before. Little bit of avant-garde, but you don't really play it like that. I'm playing it more in a kind of almost a serialistic kind of a way, really. Like when I was doing the 12-tone rose the other week, Joseph Hauer, he would take tropes. He would just take like 4 notes and just play around with them, but he wouldn't go to the next trope until he'd finished with that. So it was a little bit different than Schoenberg. But it was Hauer who actually sort of started it. It was like... Then. Back. Next. Oi. Oi. Oh, how weird's that? Dance to that, I dare you. Oh. Now I'm feeling like I'm playing like Cecil Taylor. A contemporary of John Coltrane on piano. I was mesmerised with Cecil Taylor back in the day. It was heavy going. I especially love Cecil Taylor live in the Black Forest and a thing called the Eel Pot. Ronald Shannon Jackson on drums with the same drum kit that I've got over there. Eeeh! One of the reasons why I bought that one over there. Ooh! Hello, audience. I better get a wriggle on here. I'm sort of going over now, but I think I've covered everything. Started very tonal with the cycle of fifths, one of the basic music theory concepts you absolutely need to understand how music is brought together. You get the world, the universe opens up for you once you get to understand it. Then you can work out what the modes are. You can do everything else, and what seems to be just this jumble, that kind of thing, all of a sudden locks. You've got the keys to the kingdom. And taking that one step further, Mr. Nicolas Slonimsky, pardon me, that's a me thing. And basically, I'll put up also the Alan Zavod footage. There you go, from way back when. So please go and check out the Thesaurus of Scales and Melodic Patterns. It is much loved by people who you love. It's wonderful. And then as well as that, there's little formulas I've talked about. Two of the classics is Hey Joe and Time Warp. Fly Me to the Moon is another one. Tony Bennett, there you go. And then taking it a step further with melodic patterns and all that, and if you're going to work through fifths and all this sort of business, you can start to actually talk about it in a kind of a serialistic kind of way, loosely. Okay? So I hope you get it. Oh, thank you very much for watching. More talk tonight, less action. But on Sunday, I'm going to do Continuum with the same kind of thing. And that's going to be more action, less talk. Love yous all. See ya.